Good morning, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Tony. Please take a moment to look at my other content. So today we are going to be asking a very important question. Has Kata Beach become spoiled? Now, over the last 6 months, I've been covering a lot of the beaches around the island of Phuket, and I've been picking up on comments and feedback that each beach receives. Now, Kata, of course, is a very popular beach here on the island of Phuket, and in fact, used to be one of my favourite beaches, and there is a reason why I say it used to be. Now, a lot of people feel that Kata Beach is now becoming spoilt, overcrowded. There are a lot of visitors from Russia visiting this area. There's also some issues with the commercialization that's going on the actual beach itself, which we're going to take a look at, and also the issue of green water. As I'm standing here, the smell coming from this canal is not pleasant whatsoever. Now, quite a few of the resort areas suffer with green water, and Kata is no exception to that, and there is a very good reason for it. And that, unfortunately, is the canal that's just in front of us there. Now, this runs all the way along from the town of Kata out to the northern part of the beach, and I have taken a look at this morning, and while the exit part of the canal that actually runs into the sea doesn't look too bad, as you move your way further along into what would be Kata town, the water definitely changes. We're towards the back of the beach area at the northern end now, and as you can see, the colour of this water in the canal is not exactly inviting. In fact, it's making me feel a little bit sick. Now, I can understand why they've closed this walkway here in front. It doesn't look very safe at all. But even if it was safe, I certainly wouldn't want to walk down here every day with the smell and the odour that's coming off this water. So there are some issues there that I feel that should be addressed, but it seems to be persisting. Now, of course, I'm not an expert when it comes to green water, and I couldn't tell you what is actually in that water, whether it is just grey water or whether it is sewage water. That is something that you will have to decide. But I can tell you from walking along it this morning, it doesn't smell particularly nice, and I certainly wouldn't want to be swimming in that water. So that is something to bear in mind if you are using the beach towards the northern end of Kata, because that is where the canal exits into the ocean. So if you are coming to the beach here, then I would highly recommend you move further down the beach towards the southern area and spend more time down that end if you wish to swim in it. Now, there used to be pipes that run back into the sea in the southern end, but because of the land collapse that took place last year, they've changed all that one end of the beach where all the pipes used to run out, and there are no pipes visible. That isn't to say there aren't any pipes running into the ocean, because I don't honestly know. I'm not going to call them sewerage pipes, they were drainage pipes, and they were there, I believe, to cope with when we have the monsoons to drain off the water and run it back into the ocean, part of the storm drain system. And as I say, I'm no expert on that and couldn't tell you what water actually runs into those storm drains. It should be only rainwater. The next thing that we need to address is obviously the commercialisation of Kata Beach, and I have been blown away by the amount of commercialisation now on this beach, and there seems to be no controls over it whatsoever. I've witnessed, walking along this morning, numerous places where you can get drinks from, both soft and alcoholic drinks. You can see for yourself in front the amount of sunbeds and parasols now that are on the beach. Bearing in mind there is a limit of 10 to 12% by law on these beaches. I would say we're way beyond that. Now obviously I appreciate the local people need to make a living. However, there is a fine line between making a living and greed, and I would say that greed is now taking over. I've walked extensively along this beach. I've done some filming as I've been walking along, and as you can see, it's an absolutely beautiful day. Great day for a walk along the beach. But there are very little areas along this beach that do not have any sunbeds or parasols. From the southern to the northern end, it is full. So if you like to have sunbeds, then Kata Beach is definitely going to fulfill that, because I've seen a lot of beds that are out that are empty. So the question begs, do we really need this amount of sunbeds? Because personally, I don't think we do. And I personally think it now is spoiling Kata Beach. Of course, I've spoken over the years about the need for sunbeds. I understand that sunbeds are there as a necessity for some people. Maybe you have medical problems that restrict you from lying directly on the sand. Maybe you just don't like lying on the sand, and I understand that. I'm not keen on it myself, and I do not have a problem with sunbeds and parasols personally, but I do think there has to be a balance, and that balance has been lost here at Kata. Secondly, the commercialisation. Kata Beach is very popular, to say the least, so there is a lot of commercialisation. Everything from beach vendors selling accessories for the beach, to stall holders selling shakes, alcoholic beverages, etc., and of course food. Most people do not wish to leave the beach or go very far from the beach when they're spending the day at the beach, and of course at some point during that day they are going to need some refreshment. So the third subject is, of course, our Russian guests. People have mentioned in the comment section that Kata is particularly badly affected by visitors from Russia, and whilst I have noticed a lot of language being spoken by the people as I've walked along that could be Russian, I am no expert on the Russian language, and of course I have mentioned that Russian language is spoken in countries outside of Russia, bordering Russia, so it is very hard to pinpoint where all these guests may be from. But I would say the majority of people that are staying in Kata are from or near to Russia, because that seems to be the prominent language that I've noticed this morning. I have noticed a couple of Brits, because obviously straight away I can recognise the language, maybe Australians and Americans, German, I've heard German spoken on the beach this morning as I've been working down, and I'm sure there's going to be one or two other nationalities in amongst that as well. However, the main language being spoken here on Kata Beach today, from what I understand, is Russian, or a language very similar to Russian. As you can hear probably for yourself. So, personally, I don't have any problems with the Russian people or people that come from round or near to Russia. As I've spoken before, I take people how they treat me, and I have always been treated well by these people. In fact, in some cases better than my fellow British. But I understand that not everybody wishes to go on holiday being surrounded by visitors from that country. So if you are planning on coming to Kata and you are not particularly keen on that nationality, then I would recommend maybe looking at a different area, because there is a high density of these visitors coming here. Now, I would love to hear your comments and feedback on this area. I have got a lot in the past. I would like to know your feelings about the green water situation, because the local government don't seem to be actually doing anything about it once again. Now, that problem disappeared during COVID for obvious reasons. Everywhere was closed and the water was, I'm not going to say crystal clear, but the clearest I've seen it since I've been here in Phuket. But as you've already seen this morning, it is now turning a not so nicer shade of green, and makes me wonder what is actually in that water. So please do drop some comments. Is that area going to put you off coming to Kata? Does the smell make you feel bad? Should the local government be doing more about it? Should we have these canals draining into the sea? Because of course some of the canals are classed as storm drains, as I've mentioned, and is part of the drainage system when we receive heavy rain. But there are also some canals that may not be solely for the rainwater. So please do drop some comments down below. Let me know your feelings. Let me know what you think to this area. Do you think this area has become spoilt? Because I'm going to tell you my personal feelings on this area now. I have always loved Kata Beach. In fact, it has always been one of my favourite beaches here on the island. But unfortunately, over the last 6 months, my feelings have changed, and I do feel that Kata is now becoming spoiled. It is becoming overcrowded. Overcrowded with sunbeds and parasols. I don't think there is a need for the amount that's currently on the beach. As I've shown, many of them are actually empty and not being used. So we could lose at least one row, because now they are 3 or 4 rows deep. I do believe Kata has some great facilities. The beach here for families is fantastic. That is why it is popular with visitors. There is no doubt about that. And on a day like this, I couldn't think of anywhere better to be. However, I have to say, my real feelings are, I feel that Kata Beach is now become spoilt and is no longer the beach that it used to be. So let me know your feelings on this. Do you think it's become spoilt? The main reasons that I think that the beach has been spoilt is the parasols, which we've spoken about, and also the amount of commercialisation. I've noticed this morning there's a separate area now for water sports, and they are stopping people from swimming in that area. Now again, it's all about supply and demand. If there's demand for water sports, of course people are going to supply water sports. But that also adds an element onto the beach of danger, because accidents can happen, and we have seen a death on the beach just down from Kata called Karon. In the last 6 months, there was a jet ski accident. I have noticed some, not quite sure what they're called. I think they're called hydrophiles. They're similar to a surfboard. Please, if you know the name, drop it in the comments. But they've got a powered motor on the back, and like a wing, and you stand on them and they rise above the water. Now again, I don't know a lot about these. Are they safe to use in a beach area where there is people? I don't know. Obviously, with anything that's on the water, brakes like a car or a motorbike don't work the same with vehicles that go in the ocean. You can't stop as quick. There are techniques where you can slow a jet ski, speedboat, sailboat, etc. down quicker, but they don't have brakes as such. So as we introduce more of these water sports onto beach areas that are busy, to say the least, there are plenty of people in the sea today. That adds an element of danger where somebody could be injured by this. And I do not see a lot of safety on the beach regarding people watching these people using these jet skis and hydrophiles and whatever else is on this beach currently. I think there was a banana boat, speedboat down there earlier on as well, which I filmed. So this is a question you should ask yourself when visiting a beach. Of course, if you're with a family, by yourself, you're going to want to go on a safe beach. But as we see more and more water sports introduced here, it becomes less safer, because of course safety comes down to the person that's using the water sports equipment. So again, comments down below. But these are my feelings. I now feel the Kata is over commercialised. It has way too many places for drinks. I believe, yes, there is a need to have somewhere where you can go and buy a drink. But I don't think you need somewhere every 100 yards, or in some cases every 10 to 15 yards. That's what's happening here on Kata. I've never seen the amount of vendors on this beach as what there are now. And this is why I personally feel that Kata's beach is now becoming a spoiled beach from tourism. Please let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed today's video, then you know what to do. Give me the old thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, then please consider subscribing. I would very much appreciate it. And I guess that brings us to the end of today's video. I will speak to you very soon.